Now, could you tell our audience, please, the difference between a Boer and an Afrikaner?
Well, it's slightly difficult. We've spoken about it before, but let me put it to you this way. In the 1800s, there was three groups of white people basically in the southern tip of Africa. And all historians all over the world and even people in the Cape, British administrators, etc., were writing, and you can go and look, and they were writing, and they wrote about the Cape Dutch, who were staying mainly in the southern part of the Cape. And then they were talking about the British, those British and the British settlers that came in after 1820. And then they were talking about the Boers, the Boer nation. And the Boers sort of moved from the Northeast Cape into the Boer republics. And so throughout history, there was talk of three different nations. The Cape Dutch, the British, and the Boers. Now today, a lot of people are saying, no, there is no such thing as a Boer. We have radio stations, right-wing radio stations in South Africa that are saying, I'm not saying right-wing, but I would rather say so-called conservative radio stations that are propagating the idea of the Afrikaner and using the terminology Boer now and then to sort of classify or to draw more people on the right towards them so that they sort of can gather votes or people and funds and whatever. And so it's actually a farce because today, when you ask people, what happened to the Cape Dutch? Where are they? Where have they gone? Did they become like the dinosaurs, just wiped out? Some meteorite hit the Cape Province and destroyed them. And where did these Afrikaners come from? You know, what happened to the Boers? They can't answer you, because the Boers are there. The Cape Dutch have disappeared, although they say the Afrikaners are there, which means the Boers have disappeared and the Cape Dutch have disappeared. So somehow the two became one. But they never became one as a nation. Never at all. They became one as a myth of the politicians to form a new nation, as Milner said. Destroy the Boers only one way. Do not ever try to go to war with them again. Britain will lose. Because Britain was nearly bankrupt at the end of the Anglo-Boer War. It was the most expensive war they ever fought. And Milner said the only way to destroy the Boers is to destroy their identity. And that's exactly what they did, the politicians. They removed our identity from ourselves, from our nation, and they started calling us Afrikaners, our schools, education systems, our churches, and you name it. And our people started calling themselves Afrikaners, and today a lot of them still don't realize that they're actually Boers because of propaganda. So that is mainly the main thing. Apart from what Mr. de Branch said, I don't agree completely with him, because the Boer nation, if you go and do a good study, you'll find that there were only about 200 to 300 French Huguenots that came into southern Africa. And when they landed, if you go to archives in Cape Town, you'll find that those governors at the time, who were the East Indian Dutch East Indian Company that governed those companies, and then, of course, everything that happened in the Cape, wrote back to the people in Holland and said, do not ever send those people out to the camp because they don't want to work. And there's not just a story from our side. It's extant. It exists. It's in the archives. So no more French came out. And they went and stayed. They excluded themselves. They moved into a little mountain range, and there they basically stayed. Then, of course, history books teach you that 1,000 Dutch came into this country. But there's also another figure, which is hidden from history, from our people, that 6,500, I repeat, 6,500 Germans came to this country. Now, how in God's name people can say that we mainly exist, or we come mainly from Dutch and French, I cannot understand it. That people that should be able to think are looking at the figures, and in either liberal books, history books, or in conservative history books, the same figures appear. 1,000 Dutch, 200-300 French, and 6,500 German. Yet everybody still believes we're not from German descent, we are mainly from Dutch descent. So, it's very awkward.